Boarding school was never part of my plan. I had always thrived in familiar environments, places where routines were predictable and people knew just enough about me to leave me alone. But life has a way of throwing curveballs when you least expect them, and here I was unpacking boxes in a cramped dorm room at Ridgewood Academy. The room wasn't much, a couple of twin beds, mismatched desks, and shelves groaning under the weight of textbooks. But it would have to do. My roommate hadn't arrived yet, leaving me to settle in silence. For now, that suited me fine. Solitude had always been my refuge, a place where I could retreat from the chaos of the world and focus on what mattered most: academics, poetry, and the quiet pursuit of excellence. As I arranged my belongings, I couldn't help but wonder who my roommate would be. Would they respect my need for space? Or would they turn out to be one of those loud, boisterous types who dominated every conversation and left no room for personal boundaries? My musings were interrupted when the door creaked open. In walked someone I immediately recognized, a tall, athletic figure with an easy confidence that seemed to fill the room. "Hey," he said casually, dropping his duffel bag onto the unoccupied bed. "You must be Jordan." "Yeah," I replied, standing awkwardly beside my half-unpacked suitcase. "And you're Caleb Monroe." He extended a hand, his grip firm and assured. His smile was warm, but there was something guarded in his eyes, as though he were sizing me up. We spent the next hour unpacking in relative silence, exchanging pleasantries about the weather and the school's rigorous curriculum. Caleb mentioned he played soccer, which didn't surprise me. He carried himself with the confidence of someone accustomed to leadership. In contrast, I kept my responses brief, offering only vague details about my love for literature and classical music. By the time we finished, the sun had dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the room. Caleb flopped onto his bed, arms crossed behind his head. "So, what's your deal, Harper? Any hobbies besides alphabetizing your bookshelf?" I hesitated, caught off guard by the question. "I like reading," I admitted finally. "And writing poetry, I guess." Caleb raised an eyebrow, clearly intrigued. "Poetry, huh? That's unexpected." "It's not a big deal," I muttered, feeling self-conscious. Poetry was my private sanctuary, a place where I could express emotions I rarely shared with others. I didn't want Caleb, or anyone else, to see it as anything more than a quirky hobby. "Well, don't sell yourself short," Caleb said lightly. "Maybe you'll read me something someday." I forced a smile, though I doubted that would ever happen. For now, I was content to keep my world neatly compartmentalized. Caleb on one side of the room and myself on the other. The first week at Ridgewood passed in a blur of orientation activities, class introductions, and impromptu gatherings in the common areas. Caleb quickly became a central figure in our dormitory, drawing people in with his charisma and charm. Friends and teammates frequently stopped by our room, filling the space with laughter and chatter. At first, I resented the constant stream of visitors, longing for the solitude I'd grown accustomed to. But as the days turned into weeks, I began to notice subtle changes in Caleb's behavior. Beneath the polished exterior of the star athlete lay a quieter, more introspective side that few others seemed to recognize. One evening, after a particularly grueling practice session, Caleb returned to the room looking unusually subdued. He collapsed onto his bed without saying a word, staring up at the ceiling with a distant expression. "You okay?" I asked cautiously, marking my page before setting the book aside. Caleb sighed, running a hand through his tousled hair. "Just tired, I guess. Practice was brutal today." I nodded, unsure whether to press further. Finally, I ventured, "Is everything else all right? You seem distracted." Caleb turned his head slightly, meeting my gaze. For a brief second, the mask of confidence slipped, revealing a flicker of vulnerability. It's stupid, he said finally. Just pressure, you know? Everyone expects so much from me. Sometimes it feels like I'm drowning. I blinked, taken aback by the admission. I get that, I said softly. Expectations can be suffocating. We sat in silence for a while, the weight of unspoken thoughts hanging between us. Finally, Caleb broke the quiet. What about you? Do you ever feel like you're not good enough? I hesitated, surprised by the question. Sometimes, I admit it, but I think everyone does in their own way. Caleb nodded thoughtfully, his expression softening. Thanks for listening, Harper. I needed that. From that night on, our relationship began to shift. Small moments of connection, a shared laugh over cafeteria food, a quick compliment on each other's work, started to bridge the gap between us. Though neither of us acknowledged it outright, we were slowly becoming friends. As autumn settled over Ridgewood, Caleb and I grew closer. On weekends, we explored the nearby trails, trading stories about our childhoods and dreams for the future. Caleb spoke fondly of his younger sister, Mia, who idolized him despite their occasional sibling squabbles. In turn, I confided in him about my struggles with anxiety and the pressure to live up to my parents' high standards. One chilly Saturday afternoon, we hiked to a secluded overlook that offered a breathtaking view of the valley below. As we sat on a fallen log, sipping hot chocolate from thermoses, Caleb turned to me with a curious look. You never told me why you write poetry. I stiffened, caught off guard by the question. Writing had always been a deeply personal pursuit, something I guarded fiercely. It's just a way to process things, I said evasively. Emotions, experiences, whatever. That's cool, Caleb replied, his tone sincere. I've never been able to put my feelings into words like that. Maybe you should show me sometime. I laughed nervously. Trust me, you wouldn't want to read it. It's mostly nonsense. Let me decide that, Caleb countered, nudging me playfully. Come on, Harper. Don't hold out on me. Reluctantly, I agreed to share one of my poems during our next free period. When the moment came, I handed Caleb a folded piece of paper, avoiding eye contact as he scanned the lines. To my surprise, he didn't laugh or make fun of me. Instead, he looked up with genuine admiration. This is incredible, Jordan. Seriously, the praise sent a warm flush through my cheeks. For the first time, I felt seen, not as the quiet, reserved kid in the corner, but as someone capable of creating beauty. In return, Caleb revealed a secret of his own. He loved painting. Late at night, when everyone else was asleep, he sketched landscapes and abstract designs in a sketchbook hidden beneath his mattress. It's kind of embarrassing, he admitted, but it helps me unwind. I smiled, realizing how much we had in common despite our outward differences. Both of us used art as an escape, a way to navigate the complexities of adolescence. Our bond deepened with each passing day, built on mutual respect and understanding. Not everyone at Ridgewood was supportive of Caleb and my growing friendship. Some of Caleb's teammates teased him mercilessly, accusing him of going soft because of his association with a nerdy poet. Meanwhile, I faced whispers and snickers in the hallways, labeled as Caleb's pet project. Despite the criticism, neither of us wavered. We continued to support each other, finding strength in our shared resilience. During one particularly difficult week, when Caleb struggled with balancing soccer commitments and academic deadlines, I stayed up late helping him review for a history exam. In return, Caleb defended me against bullies, earning both gratitude and newfound respect from his peers. Our friendship blossomed into something deeper, though neither of us dared to name it aloud. Late-night conversations stretched into dawn, filled with laughter, confessions, and tentative touches that lingered longer than necessary. By winter break, it was clear to both of us that this connection transcended mere camaraderie. Returning from break, Caleb and I faced a turning point. A school dance provided the perfect opportunity to test the boundaries of our relationship. With encouragement from close friends, and after a heart-to-heart conversation, we decided to attend together, holding hands openly for the first time. Though some students reacted with shock or disapproval, many others rallied around us, celebrating our courage and authenticity. Over time, Ridgewood became a safer, more inclusive environment thanks to Caleb and my willingness to embrace who we truly were. By graduation, we stood side by side, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. Together, we had learned that true strength comes not from hiding behind masks, but from stepping boldly into the light. Years later, as I reflect on my time at Ridgewood, I realize how much Caleb changed me. He taught me to embrace vulnerability, to trust in the power of connection, and to believe in the beauty of being unapologetically myself. Our journey wasn't always easy. There were moments of doubt, fear, and uncertainty. But through it all, we found solace in each other. Today, Caleb and I are still inseparable, navigating life's twists and turns hand in hand. We've built a home filled with laughter, creativity, and unwavering support. And though the road ahead may hold its share of challenges, I know we'll face them together, just as we always have. Because sometimes the most profound journeys begin with a single step, choosing to let someone in, even when the world tells you to keep them out. Weeks passed, and the initial panic subsided. Life returned to its usual rhythm, though I noticed subtle shifts in my perspective. Things that once seemed daunting, like holding Alex's hand in public or introducing him as my partner, felt easier, more natural. I began to see myself differently, too. Not as someone confined by societal expectations, but as someone capable of growth and change. Still, the fear of exposure lingered. One afternoon, while grabbing coffee with coworkers, I overheard a snippet of conversation that made my stomach churn. Two colleagues were discussing a recent news article about public indecency charges. Their voices carried a mix of judgment and amusement, and I couldn't help but wonder how they'd react if they knew about my own transgression. I excused myself from the table, retreating to the restroom to collect my thoughts. Standing in front of the mirror, I studied my reflection. Who was this person staring back at me? Someone brave enough to defy convention, or reckless enough to jeopardize everything. Later that evening, I shared my fears with Alex. He listened quietly, his expression serious. "You're allowed to feel conflicted," he said. "This isn't easy, but don't let fear dictate your life. If we spend our whole lives hiding, what's the point?" His words struck a chord. He was right. I couldn't let fear consume me. While discretion was important, living authentically mattered more. Slowly, I began to release the tight grip of paranoia, focusing instead on the joy and fulfillment Alex brought into my life. To further ease my anxiety, Alex suggested we take smaller steps toward embracing our relationship openly. We started with simple gestures, holding hands during walks, sitting close at cafes, exchanging affectionate glances in public. Each act felt like reclaiming a piece of ourselves, proving that love didn't have to exist in the shadows. One evening, as we strolled through the park where it had all begun, Alex stopped suddenly and turned to face me. "You know," he said, his voice tinged with mischief, "we should go back to that grove someday. Not to repeat what happened, but just to remind ourselves that we're free to be who we are." I smiled, feeling a surge of gratitude for Alex, for the journey we were on, and for the courage to keep moving forward. Chapter 8, Exploring Boundaries. As our relationship progressed, Alex introduced me to new ways of thinking about intimacy and desire. One afternoon, while lounging in his apartment, he brought up an idea that initially shocked me. Have you ever thought about being intimate in public? He asked casually, sipping his coffee. I nearly choked on my drink. What? Like outside? He chuckled, clearly amused by my reaction. Not necessarily outside, but somewhere unconventional. Somewhere thrilling. The thought sent a shiver down my spine. Not entirely unpleasant, but undeniably unnerving. Public displays of affection were one thing, but taking things further felt taboo, almost forbidden. Yet, as much as my rational mind rebelled against the idea, a part of me couldn't deny its allure. Alex sensed my hesitation and didn't push me. Instead, he shared stories from his own past, moments when he'd stepped outside his comfort zone and discovered unexpected freedom. It's not about breaking rules for the sake of it, he explained. It's about reclaiming your power, about deciding what feels right for you, regardless of what others think. His words resonated deeply, planting seeds of curiosity I couldn't ignore. Still, the idea of acting on them terrified me. What if we got caught? What if someone judged us, or worse, reported us? The risks seemed insurmountable. But then again, so did the potential rewards. For years, I'd lived within carefully constructed boundaries, afraid to deviate from what society deemed acceptable. Now, with Alex by my side, I wondered if it was time to break free. We spent hours discussing the concept, weighing the pros and cons. Alex emphasized the importance of consent and mutual comfort, ensuring I felt no pressure to participate. If it doesn't feel right, we won't do it, he assured me. This is about exploring together, not pushing you into anything. His reassurance helped ease some of my anxiety, though doubts lingered. I began imagining scenarios, what it might feel like, how it could change our relationship, whether it would bring us closer or drive us apart. Each possibility felt both exhilarating and terrifying. That night, lying awake in bed, I replayed our conversation over and over. Alex's words echoed in my mind. Deciding what feels right for you. Was this something I truly wanted, or was I simply caught up in the thrill of rebellion? And more importantly, could I reconcile this act with my values? The next day, I found myself unusually distracted at work. Every mundane task, answering emails, attending meetings, reviewing reports, felt like a veil masking the storm brewing inside me. During lunch, I sat alone in the park near my office, watching couples stroll hand in hand and children chase pigeons. It struck me how ordinary life appeared on the surface, yet beneath it lay countless untold stories of love, longing, and risk-taking. I thought about Alex and how effortlessly he embraced his identity. He wasn't reckless. Rather, he approached life with intentionality, choosing experiences that aligned with his truth. In contrast, I had always prioritized safety over spontaneity, conformity over courage. Perhaps this was my chance to bridge the gap between who I was and who I aspired to be. When I met Alex later that evening, I still hadn't reached a conclusion. We grabbed takeout and headed to his favorite spot, a quiet rooftop overlooking the city skyline. As we ate, the conversation drifted towards safer topics. Upcoming movies, weekend plans, and a latest drama among mutual friends. But beneath the casual banter, I could sense Alex waiting patiently for me to broach the subject again. Finally, I broke the silence. I've been thinking about what you said yesterday. He raised an eyebrow, intrigued. And I'm conflicted, I admitted, setting down my fork. Part of me wants to say yes, to take the leap and see where it leads. But another part is terrified. What if we get caught? What if people judge us? Alex nodded thoughtfully. Those are valid concerns. But let's flip it around for a second. What if no one notices? What if we create a moment so special, so uniquely ours, that it becomes something we carry with us forever? His perspective shifted something inside me. Up until now, I'd focused solely on the risks, the potential consequences of getting caught. But Alex reminded me of the beauty in daring to live authentically, even if only for a fleeting moment. I guess I've never thought about it that way. I murmured. It's not just about breaking rules. It's about creating memories. Exactly, Alex said, leaning forward. Life's too short to play it safe all the time. Sometimes, the most meaningful experiences come from stepping outside your comfort zone. For the rest of the evening, we talked about boundaries, both personal and societal, and how they shape our choices. Alex encouraged me to reflect on what I truly desired, free from external expectations. By the time we parted ways, I felt lighter, as though a weight had been lifted. While I hadn't made a decision yet, I knew I was closer to understanding what I wanted and why. One evening, Alex and I attended a local art exhibit featuring works by LGBTQ+ artists. The pieces were bold, provocative, and deeply personal, reflecting the diverse experiences of queer individuals. As we wandered through the gallery, I felt a profound sense of belonging, a reminder that I wasn't alone in my journey. One painting in particular caught my eye, a vibrant depiction of two figures entwined in an embrace, their forms blending seamlessly into the swirling colors of the background. The artist's statement described it as a celebration of love without boundaries, a testament to the beauty of connection, regardless of societal norms. That's us, Alex murmured, standing beside me. Or at least it could be. I smiled, feeling a swell of gratitude for the artwork, for Alex, and for the courage to embrace who I truly was. Afterward, we grabbed dinner at a cozy cafe nearby. Over plates of pasta and glasses of wine, we talked about the future. Where do we see ourselves in 5 years? 10? How do we want to continue growing together? I want to keep exploring, Alex said, his eyes sparkling with mischief. Pushing boundaries, challenging norms. Life's too short to play it safe all the time. I smiled, raising my glass in a toast. To exploration, then, and to finding beauty in the unexpected. Our clinking glasses echoed softly in the candlelit room, sealing the promise of adventures yet to come. Months turned into years, and Alex and I grew stronger with each passing season. Our relationship became a sanctuary, not just for us, but for those around us who sought acceptance and understanding. Together, we built a life rooted in love, courage, and mutual respect. The memory of that autumn night in the park stayed with me, not as a moment of recklessness, but as a symbol of liberation. It reminded me that true freedom lies in embracing who you are, no matter the risks. And as long as I had Alex by my side, I knew I could face anything. Life is unpredictable, messy, and beautiful, all at once. But with Alex, I discovered that even in the chaos, there's a kind of magic waiting to be found. All it takes is the courage to reach for it.